Alright, hello and welcome to the third episode in Ezio's Olympus adventure. I'm here once again with Ezio.
Hello, hello.
And we're taking a look at your semi-final game here. So, you previously, over the last two games that we covered on this channel, spoilers alert, go back and watch them first, you previously qualified for this semi-final basically by the skin of your teeth, right?
Absolutely, yes. I was one of the bottom qualifiers. I finished, I think, third from the bottom or fourth from the bottom, something like that. It was maybe 50, and I don't know. It was very close to the bottom. Um, and it was not great. Obviously, one game getting eliminated, and then another game in first was enough to get me through. But the important part is this semifinals is structured in such a way where the bottom, I think, four players don't get to play in the next round. I think it's four. Maybe it's only three. Point is, I am below that threshold. I am just below that threshold. But if I lose this game, I'm done. I'm out. So I've got to win this game, and it has to be win because these semifinals are winner take all to qualify for the finals. So this is my one chance. I've got to make the most of it. And I'm last pick as Turkey, which is not where I want to be.
Yeah, so these power rankings on the side here are actually in order of the powers being picked. So this was Paris method, which we've explained previously. France was chosen first. Ezio was choosing last, got Turkey in that order. So, do you want to explain for a second why you wouldn't be last pick as Turkey? Bear in mind, these semi-final games, the way they work is that only the person in first place on this board will advance to the final, right? Which is standard top board format. It's the way a lot of the boards that we commentate are played and are scored. And Turkey doesn't have a great reputation in those, right?
Nope. No, it does not.
Do you want to talk through why?
Sure. Generally speaking, experienced players recognize that if Turkey gets a stranglehold on their position, they never die. And the current meta in high level diplomacy is incredibly anti Turkey right now. It's just really, really bad.
Mm-hmm. Although here, I mean, I'm gonna jump right into examining some of the moves on the Spring 1901 board. Here,
Yeah.
it looks a little different to how I would usually think, like an immediate. Because quite often in these top boards, we see Austria, Italy, Russia all gang up together and team up on Turkey and brutally eliminate them, right? But usually,
Yep.
as Russia, if you're doing that, you wouldn't want to see Turkey in the Black Sea. So you would bounce
Yep.
Black Sea here, but there's an Armenia bounce going on. Do you want to talk through that?
Absolutely. As we get into the game, negotiations start off, and Austria is relatively quiet. Italy and Russia are both quite active, and they're both obviously very strong players. I get that sense immediately, very quickly, and I recognize that Austria is probably my best bet for a long-term ally here. Um, this is a top board format. Someone's going to have to stab at some point, and I have seen a lot of and so let's talk about negotiations then. So Russia comes to me and proposes the Armenian fist bump, which is what this is, ish. Normally, it's the fleet in Ankara that bounces in Armenia. Or no, is it? No, no, it's the army. It's the army. Yeah, and then, but then our Ankara is supposed to go to Khan and then get out to Aegean. It's a way to demilitarize the Black Sea, but it slightly mitigates the risk to Russia because I can't be in Black Sea and Armenia this phase.
Yep.
So I stab immediately. I just stab in the spring of '01. I make this move
Mm-hmm.
because I wanted to be in the Black Sea. Is basically the answer. I really like the Black Sea as Turkey. I think it makes me strong and safe, and it gives me a ton of power, and it means that I can work with Austria, basically.
Yeah, I mean, quite often on top boards, you'll see Russia and Turkey just bounce in the Black Sea repeatedly until one of them is forced not to. Either by Turkey building a second fleet and then supporting themselves out, or Turkey being forced to pull that fleet around in order to stop a Lepanto and Austria-Italy alliance coming in, and then Russia often goes to the Black Sea, and then Turkey is completely at their mercy, right? So getting into Black Sea early, definitely a good thing. I don't know whether it's worth a turn one stab, especially considering they kept Moscow in Moscow and moved to Ukraine, so they're kind of focused south. Here, it's gonna be tough to make progress against them, right?
Yeah, it is going to be tough for me to get a lot out of this. My pitch, though, is to Austria to simply say, hey, I've clearly pissed off Russia. This is the most obvious stab anyone's ever seen. I was hoping they were going to go to Galicia, but obviously they weren't active. They weren't around enough. So that's fine. In this position, I'm still saying, hey, I can support you into Romania, and you can come into Serbia. And then you could get 3 builds if you get Greece as well. So that'd be pretty great.
Interesting. Like, usually when you have that Austria-Turkey deal on the cards in the first year, it's Turkey asking Austria for support up into Romania, right? I don't
Yeah.
often see Turkey offer the support. I guess usually because Austria is in Vienna still, having bounced Galicia. So I guess you're using this just as more incentive to get them on your side.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a very strong pitch to say, hey, Austria, let's do this. I will never build an army the entire game. Let's have a strong AT. I don't want to die here. Let's go. Um, and sometimes you go for it. Notably, Italy was aware of this possibility, and I think Italy told Austria they were going to tap Trieste. And so that takes a lot of the wind out of this pitch. Because the pitch to Austria would be, hey, you could go +3 in 01 if Italy doesn't tap Trieste. But since Italy is tapping Trieste, even if I support Serbia into Romania, uh, Austria doesn't have the luxury to have Trieste backfill into Serbia because they would lose Trieste. So they could still do it. They could still get Romania, Serbia, and Greece. They would just lose Trieste. And it's unclear if that's worthwhile to Austria or not, versus keeping Russia on side, not bouncing not taking Romania, and just not giving Italy Trieste. And this is the downside of making such a committal move in the spring of 01. It's why I don't recommend doing it most of the time, because other people recognize that you have committed yourself and you've burned a bridge. That's pretty tough to get back. And they're going to take as much advantage as they can, and it's not always in their best interest to work with you.
Yep. I assume that Russia's reaction to this was just, okay, I guess I'm gonna attack you now.
Essentially, but he was far more diplomatic about it. And he was like, oh, we can still talk, and we can still make things happen, and we can do whatever, but, yeah.
Yeah, he clearly wasn't very happy, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I mean, it was just, it was one of the most clear, hey, we had a deal, and I stabbed, right? It's like, it just, right? It's like France opens the English Channel in Picardy, and it's like, I guess we're doing this now. Okay, sure.
Yep.
I mean, it's like the most aggressive thing you could do as Turkey, I think.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, Turkey's options are fairly limited. This is... I mean, if you didn't have an arranged Armenia bounce, this is just the straight-up best anti-Russian opening, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
I'm...
And this is why the Armenia fist bump is more viable than a simple demilitarization of the Black Sea. Because now I can't hit Sevastopol with more than one.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah, but the idea with supporting Austria in is you can do that with 2 units, right? Black Sea and Bulgaria, so it does guarantee it. I'm trying to work out if I, as Austria, take that deal despite the fact that Italy is going to nick one of the builds off me. Like, is it better to have an Italian in Trieste and to own Romania? Or is it better to just have Serbia and Greece and keep Trieste?
Yeah, it's an interesting position, and I don't know what the answer is, honestly. I think it's fine to go either way on it. Um, but again, it's like, I don't know. This opening for me, it's not great, right? But I hate Turkey in these games because my thinking is that if I had just worked with Russia to do what Russia desired and we demilitarize Black Sea and I get my fleet out, Russia walks into Black Sea and I'm dead in like 4 years because Russia gets into Black Sea and I'm cooked.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
This is just it, right? So as Russia, I often go to Black Sea when I'm allied with Turkey, just as a. I'll try and look for an excuse first. So if Austria or Italy are coming in, I'll go, oh, well, we need an extra support hold on this front or whatever, so we need to get the fleet out.
Yeah.
And
The way the tactics work out, that's honestly usually correct. Because usually, right, if you want to have like Warsaw, Ukraine, Sevastopol, and you're double supporting Romania, you need a unit in Black Sea to support Bulgaria. And usually Turkey needs fleets in Khan and Smyrna to bounce Aegean and Eastern Med. Like if you're trying to hold the fronts, you do need the fleet in Black Sea. It's important.
yes, but the reason Russia wants the fleet in Black Sea is usually not to hold that. It's because with that fleet in Black Sea, Russia has the capability of going, oh, that army in Romania or that army in Sevastopol, it's in Ankara now. And now I'm going to support myself to Constantinople and you've just died in 1 year, right?
Yeah.
Maybe they'll help you hold for a bit, but at some point you're going to be vulnerable to that because if you're facing an AI, you really can't afford to have a unit standing in Ankara blocking that from happening. So
Yeah, usually not.
yeah, it's just a painful one. I can absolutely see why you did this and went for Black Sea, even if it's not necessarily a move I would have done. Especially, I'm very interested in the way you were talking about these players, right? Because you said that Austria seems like your best ally, despite the fact that Italy and Russia were talking a lot more, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And usually my thinking would be the reverse, right? If I'm talking a lot more to someone, then I have a better idea of what their intentions are, so I'd want to align myself with them.
I do agree that I have a better idea of what someone's intentions are, but someone's intentions are often not beneficial to me.
That's fair, I guess.
Right. I do think that Russia would have worked with me. And I suspect. I know how this game turns out. And my game would have gone better if I had demilitarized Black Sea and gone to come.
Mm-hmm.
I guarantee it. Yeah, that is true.
Alright, that's all you can say on that. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we've been looking at these Spring 01 moves. Is there anything else you want to point out here? I guess the West is looking fairly standard, except for, I think, France's opening is a little odd, going all out for Belgium.
Yep. It's a little unusual. Ensuring you only take one from Iberia is not the most common, but again, it's France. He's going to go +2 in 01 and he's going to be fine.
Yeah.
I'm Turkey, and I wasn't talking much with France and Germany yet. Like, I'm talking, right? I'm doing the standard opening stuff, but it's not like I'm not pitching to Germany or England any crazy anti-Russia attack, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I should, frankly, and just be like, hey, Germany, I know it's the finals, but you want to go to Prussia and Silesia? Like,
there's no way in a million years they do that, right? But also, like, I can see why you wouldn't, because this move here only works if they don't see it coming, right? And if you're talking to people on the other side of the board about it, that's 2 more people who could leak that to Russia.
Yeah, I notably wouldn't tell them that I was moving into Black Sea like this. And so I would just say, hey, I'm planning on attacking Russia at some point this game. I'm going to want you to be pressuring them. Which is kind of what Turkeys say every game. So I don't know if it would have necessarily had any red flags, but your point of me getting into Black Sea is the most important part of this. I do agree with that.
Yeah. All right. Well, shall we go ahead to fall 01?
Yeah, and let's see if Austria accepts.
Okie dokie. It does
Nope.
not. In fact, they did the exact opposite. And I know you still supported them, so clearly they said they were accepting, right?
What a great position to be in. Yep.
God.
And because I did the support, I didn't even tap Sev, and Leonardo correctly guessed that I would not be tapping Sev, so they did not cover, and therefore Sev is open for a fleet build.
Bloody
And
hell.
Romania was taken from Sevastopol.
That's so bad. Oh no. Because especially knowing that Austria is against you, right? I don't even know where your build goes.
Yep. What are you oops. I guess this is why you don't do this.
Mm-hmm.
Cause I'm cooked. It's oops.
Yep.
I mean, like, I remember we had a game where we analyzed your top board, right? Where you were, I think you were England trying to ally France and go for or was it Germany?
It
You
was
were
England.
England trying and picked
Yeah.
someone, right, and tried to make an ally, and then that person didn't work with you, and then you were just dead.
Yep, absolutely. I YOLO'd a fleet into Mid-Atlantic Ocean hoping that Germany would be convinced to work with me, and they just went, alright, you're dead now, and then I died. So, yep, that seems painful. I note as well, Italy has set up a Lepanto here. Maybe
Yeah.
you can convince them to do something like convoy that over to Albania? Because I know as Italy, I wouldn't be hugely happy seeing this amount of cooperation between Russia and Austria, right? Clearly those two have a good relationship off the bat, and that makes me the third wheel in this situation, and I'm not getting that extra build off of Trieste, right?
Yes. Um. Remember how active Italy and Russia were, though?
Oh boy.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Who do you think is the third wheel in that alliance?
Fair.
So it's an uh-oh.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it. Where do I build here? I remember trying to get Italy to flip onto Austria early. Because I need something like that to happen for me to survive. And I'm like, hey, I'm not gonna let you get into Eastern Med. I think.
Oh no. But
I say something along those lines.
you can't say
So
that
I have
because if you say I'm not going to let you into Eastern Med, they Italy still has the option of just going to Aegean with Austrian support, right?
Yeah, but if they're in Aegean and Ionian, then well, you have to see builds. First of all, I do have build a fleet Smyrna because I guess
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. You tell me how to survive this one and all. After the horrible opening that I had. Oh yeah, we should see the winter. We should see builds.
Okay, I was going to say that there was actually something else important that happens on this board that's pretty notable, which is the Holland bounce. That, never happens, as far as I see it. And this is insane. The fact that France manages to slip into rare. I realise that none of this is relevant to you, but it's all quite
none of this is going to be relevant to my game at all, in fact. Spoiler alert.
But
but yes, interesting things do happen in the West. This is a game of diplomacy.
Yeah, this is just wow, that's a good French position off the bat, because England has annoyed Germany as well with this bounce, gain nothing out of it. Russia is going to go, oh my god, France, England are so strong, I'll prop Germany up, so England's going to be pinned down up here, right? And yep. France is in Belgium and Rur, and will have another unit coming out into Burgundy, and can pick up another one from Spain in the next year. So, yep. Just want to highlight how strong of a French opening that is. But yeah, anyway, back to the East.
Yeah, back to Ezio's Doom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I built Fleet Smyrna. I've conceded the Black Sea-ish. strictly speaking, I haven't actually conceded the Black Sea yet. I can tap Romania and Sevastopol and hold on to the Black Sea for a little bit. But, like...
Yeah, the issue, of course, with that is if you I mean, you're losing Bulgaria anyway, right? There's 3 units around it, but if you use Bulgaria to tap Romania, then they'll just force you out of Bulgaria back to Con, and then you can't tap Romania anymore. So they can
Yeah,
just support
so
Sevastopol out.
tactically, I do have more things, right? I can tap Romania and from both Bulgaria and the Black Sea, and then I can tap Sevastopol. And so they only take Bulgaria if they take it from Romania, unless they use Greece to support that in. And then they only take, and then they can't take the Black Sea. And so it's like, okay, and if they're using Greece to support it, I can like bounce the Aegean, and like I can stall for a little bit, but I don't I don't think that's a great answer for me. I don't think that's winning me this game.
Mm-hmm.
The game ends in 1910, right? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the
I'm in curl up into a ball mode. Hope that Italy stabs Austria and that I can work with Italy and maybe get like not dead at some point, and then get lucky. But also maybe I can get Russia to not kill me somehow.
I mean, this kind of makes that impossible, right? Fleet Sevastopol? What else is
Well,
Russia gonna do?
okay, it makes it difficult, but not necessarily impossible. Like, what if they take Romania, or what if they take Black Sea from Romania and get armies there, right? And get an army into Romania to backfill, and like maybe I disband my fleet in the Black Sea? Eh?
Yeah, and then what does Russia
They,
gain out of this? Like, they go to war with Austria with 2 Russian armies against 4.
yeah, with an army in St. Petersburg, North Coast. Anyways, oh man,
um, yeah.
yeah,
See, the way I look at this situation as Turkey, I think Russia is, unless a Russian fleet is blown up, which seems really difficult to do, Russia is just going to be hell-bent on going against me because they can't do anything else with these 2 units being here, right?
yep,
Um,
yep,
so my only real option is to try and get Austria to stab Russia, which
yep.
you've
I do
already
agree.
done and failed miserably.
Yep. Yep. It was a pathetic attempt, and the good news is that Austria doesn't talk to me this phase.
Oh no. Okay. It's that kind of game, eh? You just.
It's that's how things are going.
Mhm.
Because Austria felt like last turn was their choice, right? Last turn they could have either worked with me or Russia, and that's another problem with how aggressively I opened. I think Austria felt like they were forced to make a choice, and they made their choice and they're sticking with it, as opposed to the fact that I think their position still has life in it. And like right now, if they're still open to working with me, I can get them into Romania and I can pop that fleet. And if Austria works with me, I got game. Because I can tap Sevastopol, I can double support Serbia, and we can pop the fleet in Romania. I'm not losing Black Sea. Maybe we take Sevastopol. Then, if they're not supporting Italy into Aegean, then I got game. I can bounce there too. I can hold for a long time now if Austria is on side.
Yep.
Austria's not talking to me.
Yeah, you have to get Austria on side for that to work. I think if I end up in this kind of position, because I absolutely have ended up in this kind of position in gunboat games before, right? My strategy is always just retreat from Bulgaria immediately, let Austria get their game there, and then hope that Italy is pushing in hard enough in here that it doesn't look like Austria is going to be the one to get Constantinople, because then Austria flips on someone, because they aren't looking to get another dot out of you, right? Romania looks like their obvious next one, or Venice looks like their obvious next one. And you just gotta hope, but that's a lot easier in Gunboat because the players don't coordinate. In full press, they can go, hey, we really need to get rid of that turkey so that we don't have this whole situation of a turkey potentially coming back in the late game, right? And annoying everyone. So I'll be a lot happier if I get Constantinople here. You can push your fleets forward and just support me in, right? And then the Italian, knowing that otherwise Austria is going to break the deal, goes, yeah, sure. And then everything's fine between them. So the whole backing out thing doesn't work as well on that front. But, I mean, it's still
Also, by the way, I apologize. Austria did, in fact, talk to me this face. Austria said, I think I may just work with the others on this one.
Well, you gotta respect the honesty, right?
I respect the honesty a little bit, but it's...
Yeah.
Oof.
It's painful.
Yeah.
This was actually something I noticed on the last turn, and I should probably have discussed it on the first turn. Obviously, Austria and Russia demilitarized Galicia on the first turn, so did that worry you when you were making your initial, okay, we need to go full anti-Russia pitch? Because they clearly
Everything worried me. Everything was giving me all of the alarm bells the entire game.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think that's what happens when I play Turkey. Because I'm not very good at Turkey.
Fair enough. I mean, again, yeah, this is the problem with Black Sea, because at that point, once you've seen Galicia being demilitarized, it's already too late, right?
Yeah, I just don't think I'm supposed to do this.
Yeah. So,
yep.
Here we are in the winter phase. We see some interesting builds. This might distract the Italian fleet.
Yeah, one could hope that it gets Italy off of it, right? It's Fleet Marseille, but sadly we're an online play and everyone builds Fleet Marseille all the time, and they never use it to attack Italy, so Italy's not worried about it.
Yeah, the real problem is that like Fleet Marseille is almost always an anti-England build that just doesn't want to look anti-England, at least in the current meta. It goes to Spain South Coast, and Portugal goes to Mid-Atlantic Ocean, and then they sit there until such a time as they can walk into North Atlantic Ocean and Mid-Atlantic Ocean. Against better players, they sometimes sit in Portugal and Spain South Coast, because England doesn't want them to be able to do that, and then they wait one turn longer and then do exactly the same thing. So...
Yeah, plus Mid-Atlantic Ocean's better when you're going after Tunis, man. You gotta get to North Africa.
That is true. Osai is a long way away from the Italian dots, and if you go out to Gulf of Leon, you give the Italian heads up that you are coming for them, so they then immediately cover Tyrrhenian Sea. So yeah, Marseille doesn't end up pulling the Italians back as much as you think it would.
Yep.
Yeah. Alright.
Yep.
Shall we move ahead to the spring?
Yeah, let's take a look.
Alright, spring 1902. I mean, this is an interesting set of moves. That's a painful one. You said you could... Well, you were correct that you could guarantee keeping Black Sea by tapping both of these, right? Making sure neither of them had any support?
Yep.
You just ignore it? Oh, and I notice now that you do more than ignore this, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
I'm saying, well, Austrians told me that they're going to attack me. The other two at least claim that they might be interested in working with me in the future. Yeah. What am I like? Oops. Yeah.
Were you at this point like threatening Austria, saying, "Hey, I'm going to help the Italian if you do this"?
No, because Austria wouldn't consider it a threat, right? Oh, Italy's going to be in Aegean. Well, they clearly want Italy in Aegean.
Yeah. So what I was wondering here is, I see this Trieste to Albania move, right? And that kind of counters what you're trying to get the Italian to do, which is clearly convoy this army over either to here or on the next turn into Greece with support. So I was wondering if Austria got some kind of tip-off that that was going to happen, or maybe they just don't trust the Italian very much.
I did not tell Austria much this phase.
Mm-hmm.
My pitch to Austria was that after I die, you're next, basically. And like that, there was a plausible attack against Russia there, right? Like I did those pitch, right? Hey, we can do this. We can pop the fleet. I keep the Black Sea, and then we do whatever. So like it would have been okay, but Yeah.
Yeah.
Austria did not seem interested in that line at all.
I mean, I can see why, right? Russia's got two fleets down in this position. Like, looking purely at the board state, I would not be surprised if Austria-Russia was the continuation past this. Given what you've said about the press, I'm assuming that Italy-Russia is going to be the continuation past this, but, like, looking at this is really well demilitarized. The fleet can't go for Budapest. Obviously, you've got Galicia demilitarized, you've got Budapest demilitarized, and only two Russian armies in the south, one of which is presumably going to go to Armenia, right? So not be in the aggressive against Austria kind of area.
Yeah.
So it all feels kind of fine for Austria, although I don't know about this move. Moving up to Bohemia, I don't see that much use for it.
I think that's actually a pro-German move. I think he's intending to support Munich to hold and doesn't want to see France get in.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Good predictive moves from Germany here, cutting the support and bouncing France out of Burgundy. But yeah, if these guys, if this alliance had made slightly different moves, then this army could be pretty vital in support holding here. So yeah.
Yeah, like if an army got into Holland and Burgundy, for example, this phase, then they would probably need to support Kiel and Munich the same phase to not lose anything, and they can only support one.
Mhm.
So that's a reasonable move. But unfortunately, um, as Austria in this position, I don't know if you have time to make those sorts of moves, frankly.
It's interesting, right? Because my instinct here is you have such a strong alliance with Russia, and it's so blatantly strong, that if you want to fully commit to that, you kind of need to go in against Italy before they get another army in their homeland, and just take the
Yeah.
advantage of it right now and go for Venice. But I understand not doing that because Italy also is about to have two units adjacent to here, and if they work with you, that's Greece just gone, right? There's nothing you can do to stop that. So, relying on the Austria, Italy, Russia alliance for a bit and just going, okay, I'm gonna see this out, I'll take Bulgaria, then I'll go in against Italy when they've pushed their fleets forward a bit. I don't know. But before they've gotten Smyrna, eh.
Window. You could probably make you can maybe wait a turn, right? Because like, hey, Italy, especially if they're in Aegean, Italy's not going to get anything, right? So
Yeah.
yeah,
So I can see stalling out a little bit, especially if you trust Russia a lot here. But
yep,
at the same time, my instinct in this is screaming, go grab Venice. This is a perfect opportunity to grab Venice. That army is stuck in Tunis. There's no extra builds here. You know, you can just immediately get two on that and get in. Yeah. But hey, my instinct on that may not be correct. Again, it's all down to the press in situations like this and how you're feeling about the other players. So, I mean, there's some super interesting stuff going on in the West that I kind of want to take a look at. I don't know how much insight you have on this, but stuff like my instinct was, oh god, there's a France England alliance. Russia is gonna side with Germany and prop them up. England just walks out of Norway and goes, Russia, go ahead and have that. I'm gonna go all in against Denmark. That's a curious approach, and it might work out a bit better for them because the way that it was going, I think France was just gonna get the upper hand against them, right? It's an interesting.
it's tough because so first of all, I have absolutely no insight, right? The West was an enigma. I have the boards, but you don't care what Turkey thinks after the opening, right? Once Russia puts that fleet down in Sev and you see what's going on, you know that Turkey's not lasting. So
Yeah, or at least won't be relevant to you until super late in the game, so you may as well not give them your plans.
yeah, I mean, especially when like what's England gonna say? Hey, I'm working with Russia here. Like, okay, sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm happy to see Russia building more right now. That's wonderful.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like even after you do, like, after you support England down here, as Russia, I might just throw a cheeky support hold on Denmark anyway and go, okay, England, now you die. Because I've got what I
Yeah,
want here, I'm just gonna keep going. Um,
I that makes some sense. But also, if you support England and Denmark, does it really cost you much? Like,
yeah,
England's presumably going to stay on side. You can maybe get Berlin out of the deal, and then if it depends on your relationship with France, right? If you think France is going to stab, then you have no need to make a move. But if you think France is going to go south, then you probably want to prop up Germany. That's my guess. But I don't know.
yep, I'd say that's fair. And of course, France's strength is like a real consideration here. Um, just because of what I mentioned on the last phase, France is really strong. uh,
Yeah,
all right. So, anything more to talk about here, or do you want to just go on to the next one?
let's see the fall. Eh?
All right. Here is the fall. Do you want to talk us through what's going on the Turkish front?
On the Turkish front, well, I'm really hoping they convoy into Bulgaria via Aegean and support it with Greece, and that I actually can hold Bulgaria because of some nonsense.
Oh,
That doesn't happen.
you were thinking that this Italian army was going to end up here?
I was hoping that was the case because, as you pointed out, Italy is really weak right now and only has 4 units. And so, hey, maybe if that's the way Italy gets a build, that's not tactically sound. And I'm hoping for nonsense. So yeah,
Yeah, I mean, as Austria, you certainly never love putting the fleet on the south coast of Bulgaria. It feels like kind of a useless place for a fleet to be, at least in comparison to somewhere like Greece, which projects a lot of power over multiple very important sea provinces, right? Bulgaria's south
yeah,
coast is kind of. It just feels bad.
oh yeah,
um, but
yeah. And so that's why maybe they convoy the army because they still want Italy to get something, right?
yeah, I don't understand this, really, because as Austria, I don't want Italy to get something in this position, especially if that something is Greece, right? You go, hey, Italy, you can get something out of Turkey when it's your turn to get something, which will be after I've murdered you.
Yeah,
But in this position, Austria has rotated their armies that, like, they clearly don't trust Italy, right? They're self-bouncing in Tyrolia. They rotated their army down to Albania to defend Greece, presumably, and to defend Albania against a potential convoy in. And now they're just giving this up when they have like, they have a position where they can absolutely just say, Italy's getting nothing this turn. I'm going in on Italy this turn, and Italy can do nothing about it, right? Um,
yeah.
I feel like I would have just committed to that. But yeah.
You think that would have been fine? I would have been very happy with that.
Well,
I'd
yeah.
probably still die, but hey, at least there's fight, there's tension.
Mm-hmm.
But no, that doesn't happen. Austria wants to eliminate me.
Yeah, I mean, I get that, right? It's a top board. You don't want Turkey in existence because in the late game, when you. Yeah, especially as Austria, when you have no fleets, right? You're just sitting around on a million armies, and Turkey is still alive on 3 dots behind you and just goes into Aegean Black Sea and stands in Constantinople, and all your armies get pinned. Well, half your armies get pinned down here, defending against stuff, and suddenly your force against the West is much diminished, right? Um,
Yeah,
it's the reason why Turkey gets taken out so often.
yeah,
But
it's part of it for sure.
here, I just really wish. I just really wish to see a move against Italy in this Austria position if you trust Russia as much as you do. Although, on the flip side, Russia's position against Austria is so bad that if Austria does actually want to stab and does end up trusting Italy, they could get a decent stab in on Russia. Especially, well, maybe not now that they've put the fleet in Bulgaria's south coast. Well, an
That
army
makes
there
it
would be
harder.
much better. But yeah.
Yep.
All a lot of hypotheticals, none of which actually help your position here. You do manage to push out into a GNC, which is something, right?
Yep.
That's all you have to say about it. I mean, I can't blame
Again,
you.
this position has been so bad since spring of '01, and it's all my fault.
Uh, Absolutely. I mean, yeah. I don't really
Yep.
have much else to say about it. You couldn't. Well, you could have prevented Sevastopol coming in by cutting this and going here, but pushing them out of Aegean basically accomplishes something similar, right? Gets rid of an enemy unit in a spot adjacent to you, which this would have done, blocking this.
Yep.
And it's a bit less risk. I mean, no, it's probably the same amount of
Oh,
risk.
they're both pretty risky. I don't like the tactics of what's more important or something that maybe consider. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I thought I could. I was trying to get Italy to take from Aegean, right? And I'm like, look, I'm gonna tap Aegean, so vacate it yourself, and then we can figure something out. I think. Um, but yeah, if I got that to happen and I tap Black Sea and bounce Armenia, then my positions may be holdable, right? Because then there's going to be tension and Italy's not hitting. Maybe that would have been better. I think I'm supposed to bounce Armenia.
Uh, yeah, I don't love the position. Well, I mean, yeah, I I don't love any potential position you could be in at this stage. But if Aegean goes out into Greece, right, and you bounce the Russian out of Armenia,
Yeah,
the Italy doesn't really have the strength to push in on Austria anymore at that stage. They've got a fleet in Greece, and that doesn't really help them going in because they can't go anywhere there. They presumably then have to convoy their army back somewhere useful. And this self bounce up here actually does protect against something in that case because you would, as Italy, really want to
want to
accompany a
get
stab
earlier, yeah.
by going up here and then putting another army down, right? But that's not going to happen here. And on top of that, even if Italy manages to push in on Austria, all you're doing is locking down Austrian units on this front, which means these two Russian fleets are going to continue harassing you. And
Well,
there's nothing.
notably, the second Russian fleet, the one that's in Romania, isn't going to be able to do that much against me for a while,
That's true
right?
now, yes.
Because they're already in Black Sea, so there's not much more that can be lost.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm making the pitch to Russia. Look, man, I got no fleets on the Black Sea anymore. We can be friends.
Oh, man.
It's not much, man, but like, I don't know.
It's worth a shot.
Yep.
Just like that. That is one of the great strategies of diplomacy. If you give your opponents everything, then you have nothing left to defend, and therefore are doing better than someone who is losing ground.
Yeah, I remember. I feel like we've tried this strategy in another one of our games.
We are not
Anyways.
talking about the Ice Cream Invitational. That's for another video. Oh boy.
Anyways, look, here's what the position looks like. We can see the builds. Sorry, we have power rankings.
Oh yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
all right, great.
Okay, hang
Great,
on.
okay.
Let me do the first bit of power ranking here.
Yeah, move me down the light.
All right,
Oh,
that is the designated almost dead but still peeking out kind of region here.
yeah.
Do you have some thoughts on the rest of the power rankings here? I'm thinking that Russia looks really strong. I'm thinking that France looks really strong. Those are my initial two
Yeah,
reads.
I think it's Russia, France, England, Italy, Germany, Austria. Germany and Austria you can flip them around, but I just hate Austria's holy position. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Russia's on 3 fleets. Or sorry, Russia's on 4 fleets and 3 armies, which is usually pretty good for Austria. So Austria's above Germany.
Yep. I'm actually surprised to see Austria below Italy and England. Like, England's position looks really bad to me.
You said Italy's position?
Sorry, England's position looks really bad to
England's
me.
position?
They have
Hmm.
Skagerrak, yeah, they have North Sea. This is kind of important. Fleet St. Petersburg
Yeah.
North Coast coming on. Um,
Yeah, Fleet St. Pete North Coast isn't great. I don't know, like, I read the EF as tight still. Fleet Brest isn't great. But like it's going south.
um, I mean, it's possibly going south, but if it decides to go north, then England is completely screwed, right? Um, and what's England gaining? This is exactly what I
Yeah.
mentioned on the last turn. Once, in fact, what actually happened up here? We didn't look at this. Yeah, they did support hold Denmark. So you go to England, you say, hey, if you walk out of Norway and give that to me, I'll help you with Denmark. You let them do that, and then you just go, nope, screw you. You're too weak to be my ally now. I'm going to murder you. um,
Yeah.
that does appear to be what's happening at this
Yeah, you
stage.
can move England down. Yeah. England's no worse, for sure.
Okay. Would you put England below Germany?
Uh no.
Moo.
I, I don't know, man. I don't look. I was focused on Turkey, and I want to get this review done so I can stop looking at my horrible game. Okay, God.
Okay, fine. I'll leave them. I'll leave England above Germany here. I
Just,
I also feel like my instincts would be, especially with Fleet Naples going down, my instinct is to put Austria above Italy. Because Fleet Naples can't defend Venice, so you've still got the opening to go in on Venice, right? And you've still got this beautiful demilitarized zone with Russia. Fleet Bulgaria South Coast is sad, but you've got 2 units ready to pull it back to Greece, so eh, it's feasible. I think Austria's position is. I get why you think Italy's position is okay, but I would probably play Austria over in this situation. Um, but I realize I
sure.
am nitpicking on tiny differences here, and you did your power rankings in like 3 seconds. So.
I could see. I could see Austria over Italy, but I think that's only true if Austria attacks Italy right now, and then if you can trust Russia to not mess with you.
Mhm.
But if those things aren't true, your position's bad.
I feel like you can trust Russia not to mess with you because they just built Fleet St. Petersburg, North Coast, right? Um, how are they
Sure.
going to mess with you? They come in with Ukraine? Just
I
one
mean,
unit stab?
they can take Bulgaria whenever they want, right?
That is true.
Presumably, because presumably Spain South Coast is doing something, or Bulgaria South Coast is doing something like tapping Constantinople.
But if you're stabbing Italy here, you're presumably supporting Bulgaria down to Greece anyway. I think.
Maybe. Yeah, like if you go for a stab on Italy here and you don't help Russia with Turkey anymore, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, that might be a line.
Yeah, it's a line I like a lot. I think
Sure.
maybe the main advantage of having given up Greece to an army here, seeing that fleet go down, is that you can immediately blow it up and then put yourself into a position to take. Like, Italy won't get to rebuild that because you just keep Greece, and so they don't have the extra unit. You put your. And then
Yeah, and then you take Venice as well.
they're locked on one
Yeah.
army, so they can't defend their homeland with that. So you've got a pretty good attack opportunity here. That would be my recommendation from this position.
Yeah.
From the way you've
That
talked
looks pretty
about it,
good.
I think that's not going to happen. But I am ranking power
Well, let's go
rankings.
see the script.
Yeah, okay. So, spring 1903 when the page loads. There we go. That's not looking so good for you right now.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
You don't even bother support holding Constantinople with Ankara. Like, this is a hold. What's going on?
Eh.
I mean, it wouldn't have changed anything.
You tell me, man. Did that unit need to do anything this turn?
No, probably not. Okay. God.
The thing about me as a player is that sometimes I get dejected and recognize I'm screwed.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Once I recognize I'm dead, I don't have the killer survival fight to the last man instinct that some players do. I am not that good at it.
Yeah. I think that's actually one of the big differences between you and me, because I do tend to scrap from... In fact, I feel like I'm almost more motivated from positions like this than from positions where I'm doing really well. Which is an interesting approach and doesn't always work out very well for me. But yeah, this is... I can absolutely see why, like, at this stage, especially given the negotiations you've had with Austria, it doesn't feel like there's a lot of room for you to get out of this. And by a lot of, I feel like there isn't any room for you to get out of this.
Yep.
Yeah. You have one
Again, remember this
choice.
is a game where whoever's in first place in the end at 1910 is the winner.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If this game is untimed, I have a lot more to play for. If this is a game where I can have a reasonable score and then in like third place, I still have stuff to play for. Then a board top only game where I'm knocked down to 2 like this in spring of 03, like even if I get a couple of amazing stabs, like my neighbors start fighting each other, I got nothing.
Yeah, I feel like Turkey is maybe the exception to that, right? Turkey can come back really strong, and you've still got 7 years in the game.
Yeah,
but
maybe the exception to that.
That does mean you would have to survive this year, and like looking at the position, that doesn't feel very likely.
The 5 hostile units and only 2 units, one of which can't support the other.
Yeah,
Makes
exactly.
you think things are looking rough.
Look, this is an absolute blunder what you did here, because you could have retreated your army, and then it would have been able to issue a useless support.
Oh god, you're right! Oh yeah, god, that was terrible. So inefficient. Yeah.
And of course now, Italy will never want to work with you because you've got a fleet in the south, whereas if you had 2 armies, they would have gone, oh yeah, I'll let you keep Smyrna because it will keep Russia back. Yeah, no, none of that is gonna work. Well, you can look on the bright side. Italy will have to rotate back because France came down here. The problem is you'll be dead by the time they rotate back. So
yep.
Yeah.
Can we go to the fall real quick? Just
sure. Let's have a look.
Just boop.
Rip. That is.
And if you look at Austria in the meantime.
Oh my god. They get walked in on Trieste. Oh no.
Yep.
Ouch. So
while supporting Italy into Smyrna.
And they get oh ow. And Russia supports hold Bulgaria and moves into Galicia. Oof. Oof.
Oof.
Yeah, okay, well, on the plus side, I'll bet that this is exactly... Yeah, well, I'll bet that this is exactly what you wanted to see, because you went all in on the alliance with Austria. Austria said no, and now you get to say, oh, I told you so, after the game, right?
I didn't say I told you so.
Okay.
I thought it a lot. But I didn't say it to him.
Man. I'm just trying to envision why Austria would want to do this. I feel like this is because of this pivot right here, right? Germany goes for Sweden and attacks them, and now it looks like there's a Western triple ongoing. Suddenly, Italy and Russia go to Austria and say, hey, there's a Western triple. We really need to deal with this situation. Move your Trieste unit up to Tyrolia, please. And they go, yep, okay, I will get
Yeah, it's probably like, hey, what we've done with Turkey, our armies have to be useful. I'll send Venice to Piedmont. You send Trieste to Tyrolia. We'll be fine. Great, let's be happy and let's move on. And then, like, I'm not sure what exactly the arrangement was around Greece and Bulgaria. Maybe get the army popped in Bulgaria, they keep Greece, and then it's fine. Italy gets Smyrna, and everything's okay, right?
Oh, that's totally it, right? Because they need to pop the army in order for Italy to get a build. Because they're going plus Smyrna, but they're losing Tunis. So they need the extra fleet at home, they need to pop that. Italy finds sneaky ways to get extra builds instead. But the deal, if they're sticking with AIR, is to replace this army with a fleet.
Yep.
As Austria here, I feel like, again, this kind of reinforces that, well, no, actually, if you are confident that AIR is sticking together, then this is actually a decent thing to stick with, because you'll end up in the power position, I think. Because the other two players are being pressured, right, by the West, and you aren't. So you're going to end up with a lot of armies, and if you just keep these two friendly with you, then you can just go at the end, hey, I've been your friend the entire game, can I walk into a couple of dots so I go ahead of all these people who screwed you over on the other side?
Yeah, I mean, you don't even have to make it like that. You can just keep them building fleets while you build armies, and it makes sense because you can pitch to Russia, hey, we need more fleets in St. Petersburg. Italy obviously need more fleets in the Med. So just, hey, keep building fleets, maybe put down another army in Warsaw or two, but like certainly not many more than that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, probably no more than the one in Warsaw. And then it's just, hey, you have a bunch of armies and you're feeling pretty safe as Austria. I think that's a reasonable position to play for.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's also why I think this is a really smart stab from Italy. Because it changes the future of the game from one where Austria is in the power position to one where you actually have a chance at topping this board. Because if you don't get these dots right now, with France coming in this way, right, then you end up being pinned on this line with fleets, and Austria just ends up dominating with regard to what you can do. Like, you won't be able to do anything without Austria approving it from that point on. So... yeah, I really like what Italy does here. Obviously, I feel bad for you, but this was inevitable at this point anyway.
Self-inflicted.
Yep. So, before we decide how much of the rest of this game we're going to cover, or in what way we'd cover it, what does this mean for you in the semi-finals? Because you were right down near that cutoff mark, right? You only just qualified, and I believe some of the players from this... basically, there are 2 rounds of semi-finals where you can get into the finals by qualifying as the top board, as the person at the top of the board. But between those 2 rounds, a few of the bottom performers get cut. Am I right on that?
Bottom performers, it's based on rankings ahead of time.
So qualifiers.
So because I ranked so low, right? I am knocked out. I'm done.
Oof. Yeah.
This was my one chance.
Ouch. But
not a good showing.
Not a good showing at all. But your story doesn't end here.
It doesn't actually end here because I get saved. Because someone drops out.
Right. Between the first semi-final round and the second semi-final round?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Someone tried to play but then couldn't, and so they dropped out. And so instead of it being them, I get to take their spot because I was the last player who didn't qualify for the second semifinals. So I actually get one more chance.
Right, well, we will. I am excited to see how that game goes for you. I hope you don't draw Turkey again. That is...
Yeah, and it's whatever I'm given, right? Because I'm last pick, and I will always be last pick in these games, so I will have no choice.
Well, technically, in the Paris ranking, someone could drop below you if they really wanted the tiebreak,
Yes.
right?
Someone could choose to pick after me in the Paris method, and then I would have a choice to pick someone that is not Turkey. That is relatively uncommon, I think.
Yeah, it's basically unheard of. It's actually a question I'm pretty sure I've been asked in the comments before. Does anyone ever drop to the end of the Paris rankings just because of that tiebreak? Because the tiebreak seems super important in the last couple turns of the game, right? Quite often it is actually a deciding factor in the game. The problem is, it's only a deciding factor at the end of the game, and in order to get to the end of the game, you tend to need a good country pick. Or at least the country pick is much more immediately relevant, and it's much more often relevant. So people want to pick their countries at least halfway up the order, usually a little bit higher than that. I've seen people dropped down to like 4th position if they really want to see where a couple of other people are going to put themselves on the board, but people don't drop down to the bottom. So usually, if you're in last place in the Paris method, you are picking last and you are picking Turkey.
Usually, yeah.
Yeah. Precisely because this happens.
Yeah, because this sort of thing happens. And part of it, I played badly, and I made bad deals, and I had bad diplomacy, and trusted the wrong people. So a lot of it's, but also, this sort of stuff happens to Turkey all the time.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Well, I probably have seen, but I don't know that I've seen a Turkey elimination this quick in a little while. 1903 is a real speedrun.
Absolutely, yeah.
You've officially got the world record for the diplomacy any percent category. Well done.
That, I mean, we take whatever achievements we can get.
Actually, you don't have the record for the diplomacy any percent category because the Austria in 5D in our 5D diplomacy playtest died in 1901, which was fantastic.
5D. Is that real diplomacy?
I think that counts. We still have to review some 5D diplomacy games. I'm gonna get you to do it one day.
I'm not convinced we have to, but we'll deal with that later, I guess. Anyways, I think we can just call this game here. I don't need to look at the rest of it.
Alright, well, we are at least gonna look at the
Those of you who are interested, Russia wins.
Yeah, okay, so as Ezio spoiled there, it actually ends in 1907, so a fair bit earlier than the required date, right? But it looks like the Western Triple kind of just stuck together, and Russia had a good position against them, right? I guess the North, in order for Russia to control this much of the North, there must have been some shenanigans going on here between the two powers. Like here, right? Germany has flipped. So it looks like England stuck with France. Germany was kind of going back and forth on the whole thing. I am actually interested now in why Germany flipped. Yeah, it was because of this, right? England doesn't take the German spores into Finland. And England stabs for Denmark and puts an army in Holland. So yeah, it was a pretend Western Triple where Germany gets killed, which is a fairly frequent occurrence in Western Triples. And throughout this, you can just see that France just has the power position, because England is fighting this war where you really don't have any chance of the upper hand in this theatre if you have Germany and Russia against you. And even being traded Belgium, France still just is absolutely dominating this side. It goes to an endgame where Russia and France seem to be the main competitors. Italy appears to stab Russia at this point, and Russia stabs Italy. Does Italy stab just to, No, okay, they both stab each other at the same time. And then at this point they just decide, okay, Russia, you've got this. Yeah, which feels like a decent place to call the game. Sorry, I've been monologuing for a while. I realize you kind of want to wrap this up, right?
Yep.
Alright. As we are done looking at Ezio's misfortune, that is the short, sad tale of Ezio's turkey. Thank you very much for watching this one, and we will see you for Ezio's second semi-final, which hopefully he will not be playing Turkey in.